Welcome to this how-to video on disassembling a 17F60 Flomax pump fluid section. Shown are the tools needed for the disassembly. You will need a rubber mallet, a clamp puller, a needle nose plier, flat blade screwdriver, small pointed pick, several combination wrenches, along with several Allen wrenches. You may also use a marker to mark the body portions for correct alignment when reassembling, but it is not necessary. First, we will begin by removing the outlet valve assembly. You want to start by loosening the upper valve stop with a 13mm open-end wrench and use a 6mm Allen wrench to loosen the connection screws. There are two of them. This helps when disassembling, which we will show later, without having to use a vise to secure it, as they will be hand tight. Then there are 4 bolts that secure it to the body of the pump, and you will use that 6mm Allen to remove those 4 screws. You can see 2 O-rings on the inlet and outlet. I want to make sure that those are secured there. Next is the optional marker portion where you can mark the body. That just helps with realignment when reassembling the unit. This isn't necessary, just a helpful aid. Now we will remove the bottom suction portion of the pump using 8mm Allen wrench to loosen 6 screws. They call that bottom portion the suction chamber. Once they're removed, use a mallet to break loose, and then it'll just pull off. You can see there is a cartridge seal, GT cartridge. You can use a flat blade to pry that out and remove. And then there is an outer edged encapsulated O-ring, and you can use the pick to pry and remove that. Do not worry about damage, as we will replace the seals when reassembling. Next, we are going to remove the shutter and securing nut to the piston rod using a 8mm and 19mm open-end combination wrench. Using that 19mm wrench, you can unloosen the nut, and once that nut is removed, you can pull off the shutter stop and set them aside. This will now allow you to remove the piston sleeve. You can see the concave area of the valve seating on the top of the piston. Then using the rubber mallet again to tap and separate the midsection body. This portion does not have any seals. Just set that aside. Next, there are 4 screws securing the upper body portion. You will use the 8mm Allen wrench to remove those 4 screws. Once those 4 screws are removed, it takes a little force, but you can pull off that upper section. This section also has a GT cartridge and encapsulated O-ring using the pick and screwdriver to remove both. Again, these will be replaced during the reassembly. Next, we will remove the tie rod from the skirt and air motor piston. You will use a 15mm combination wrench to secure the upper air motor piston using the flats, and then a 12mm on the flats of the tie rod. And untighten the tie rod using that 12mm. Once it is loosened, you can unscrew the tie rod, which has the valve, upper valve seat, and that seat does have a seal. It can be removed with a pick, and we are just going to show you how that valve seats on that concave area of the piston, and that's where your valve seating occurs. Now, to remove the skirt and bellows from the air motor piston, this is where we use the clamp puller. We're using a cantilever clamp to secure and pull off the skirt from the piston rod. Once it is removed, the bellows can then be pried off. If there is a difficulty in popping that off, you can put the skirt in a vise to make it a little easier in prying the bellows off. So now onto the outlet valve that we removed in the beginning. You're going to use a pick to remove the two inlet and outlet O-ring seals. And then, because we loosened the bolts and that upper valve stop before we removed it, they are on relatively loose and can be easily undone. Using that 13mm combination wrench, you can remove the upper stop, which has a spring and a encapsulated seal. Using the pick to remove that seal, again, this one is tough, but since we are replacing it, do not have to worry about damaging that ring. There is a ball on the inside of that seat. You can pull that and dump that ball out, and then use the 6mm Allen to finish loosening the two long body bolts. Set those aside. Now there are three portions: lower, mid, and upper body of the valve. The lower portion, they do have encapsulated O-rings on them that can be removed, again, using the pick. And again, these will be all used in the reassembly. Now, when you separate the two, upper and mid section, there are valves inside, valve seats. So in the midsection, you're going to take one of the two long bolts, put it through the upper portion, and use the rubber mallet to tap out the seat, ball, and stop, or ball cage. Those will just pop out. You can set those aside. You can see the ball there. And then the same for the upper portion, except it's just the seat in there, as the ball, spring, and stop were removed at the beginning. And there is the seat in that upper portion with the valve needle stop and the ball there. So this completes the outlet valve disassembly and concludes the 17F60 fluid section disassembly video.